Welcome back to my workshop. Now in this video I'm going to show you how to do something for the man who has everything. There's an old joke that says, what do you give the man that has everything? To which the answer is antibiotics. However, if you have a man in your life who's very difficult to buy presents for, then I think I may have found the perfect thing for you. What this video is about how to make a beer holster. So in order to do this, first of all, you need a bottle of beer. As someone who suffers for his craft, I spent last night drinking this bottle of beer specially, so that we've now got an empty bottle of beer which I can use to make the pattern for my beer holster. So first of all, start with an empty bottle of beer. It's probably best if you start with an empty bottle. You need to know how big it is. Now the dimensions I use will change depending on the kind of beer you like to drink. Here in England, this is a fairly sort of standard sized beer bottle. If you're in the part of the world that has that sort of fizzy muck lager type stuff, first of all you have my condolences, but secondly the size of bottles you will use will undoubtedly be different, so you will need to make your own pattern up. So let's start. I've cut myself a couple of bits of leather. This is going to be the back of the holster, and we're going to need to make something at the top there like that in order to take the belt. You can create a fairly basic design, but even though it's a sort of a jokey type present, there's no reason why it can't be well made. So let's put a little bit of thought into making it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to round off these edges. So I've already pre-marked what I want to do, and using the cotton reel that I'm going to be using, I'm just going to quickly mark on a few circles, and using the saddler's knife, ever so gently and in little tiny cuts, I'm just going to cut those off. I will smooth those out just to get some nice rounded edges. Once I've got those smooth, I'm then going to use this edge die. This is a new version of it with a new applicator. I'm trying it for the first time. I had a little go just now, but I think I'm going to quite like this one. So if you are the manufacturers of Phoebing's edge die, I think you've got a good one this time. So there you are, that's the actual back of the holster. That's had all the finishing it needs. So we now need to make somewhere for the belt to slide through. Now it so happens I know the belt I'm going to be using for this is a 40mm wide belt, so I need about 50-55mm on that bend there. If you're using a wider belt, you need to increase that distance. Obviously if you're using a thinner belt, you need to do a thinner one. Now this is supposed to be a fairly fast project. The idea is to do this in under 1 hour. Let's see if we can do it. So we need to mark out where we're going to put our stitching. Now unusually for me, this project is going to involve a couple of rivets. What I'm trying to create is the idea of an industrial looking type holster. So I'll mark out the stitches, but I'm going to leave a space at either end, and that will be for the rivets. So using the stitch marker as usual, and using some upholstery tacks, I'm just going to tack this into place. So there you are, you can start to see what we're going for. Here's our bit of belt that I'll probably make to go with it. Starting to look industrial already, isn't it? So there you are, that's the back of the holster done, they're stitched across, and in a minute we'll put some rivets in there. So we'll put that to one side for the moment, and we move to what is going to be the front of the holster, the bit that holds the beer bottle in, the important bit. The first thing you need to know is how we managed to reach this kind of dimension. How did I get to this sort of size? So I took my beer bottle, put it on the bench using a bit of scrap leather, and you just work it out to there, and then you can measure that. So that comes to 180 millimeters. I've then allowed another 10 millimeters to give myself a bit of wriggle room, and another 10 millimeters either side in order to make the seam. So that means I end up with 210 millimeters. Now obviously, as I said earlier, if you use thinner bottles where you live, then you can change it. If you use fatter bottles, you can also change it to make it bigger. Now you can see where I've marked out my T-shape, and you could, if you wanted to, just cut a straight right angle, and that would still look quite nice, but I want to have a little bit of a finish on it. So I'm using this circular punch, which I'm hoping to line up with my T. So having then punched that out like that, it just gives me a little bit of a curve there. It looks a little bit nicer. Now if you enjoy the video, do remember to subscribe to the channel. Press the like button or whatever it is you like to do. Do remember you can always sign up for the blog, which is tomgreencraft.com. Find out some of the other things that I make. If you don't want to make one of these for yourself, but you do like to buy one, then you can always get them from a website called Dirhams of London, who look after all of my products. Of course, you don't have to use this just for having a beer bottle on your hip. It occurs to me that if you're a keen barbecue person, it would be quite a good way of keeping your barbecue sauce to hand, or those various other implements that you would need. Now, before I go too much further, I'm going to start putting some rivets in. So as you can see, I didn't go all the way down to the end there. So using this hole punch, I'm just going to quickly punch a hole. Rivets come in two parts. You have a little bit that fits in the back like that, and then this piece here, which is the cap, that fits over the top like that. And then you just need to put them onto something solid and give them a sharp tap. As you can see, we've now reached a point where we've got the two sides attached, and you can start to see where we're going with this. So the vital question is, does the beer bottle fit? And I'm delighted to say, yes, it does. So all we've got to do now is to finish this last piece, which bends down like that. Now, what I am going to do, before I go too much further, is I'm going to put a little tiny groove along here using this tool here. Now this is a tool that cobblers would use. And what I want to do is this just makes it much easier for the leather to bend. So I'm cutting a little tiny groove so that that then bends like that. Now what I discovered when I was doing this side is I actually quite like rivets, because it held the piece in place whilst I was sewing it. So I shall use exactly the same technique again. But watching me sewing is probably quite a boring thing, so I'll hurry on and do this, and I'll come back and see you in a moment. So there you are, the last stitch is done, so the moment of truth has approached. Does our beer bottle fit? We'll find out. And the answer is, yes it does. So as you can see, I now have myself a beer bottle holster, complete with a belt to go with it. What more can a man want? Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you do, have a look at some of the other ones on my channel. You never know, you might like those as well. It helps me if you do press the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny, but it makes a difference to my life. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.